Oh my god, we are live. Right, so we'll wait until we'll see if we get any viewers to begin with. A lot of people view this and we're actually not talking about anything. We're just. I wonder if you can edit it. You'll need to do your editing skills after. I'll send a wee message out to the group. Okay, so see if we get any viewers. Oh, let's see that. Oh, we've got one viewer.
Hey.
That's me.
Is it?
I've got it in another window, yeah. It's not live.
Right, take that off. I don't want to see myself. Right, well, we'll start it off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Media Meetup. We're doing this as a Google Hangout. We're going to be basically doing this every month now. A week before each of the Hangouts, we're going to do before each of the meetups, we're going to do a wee hangout, basically just on a topic that's kind of related to the meetup. And what we'll do is, if you put that is just to me so much. Basically, what we'll do is it'll get a lot slicker, it'll get a lot more professional from what we're doing tonight. This is kind of a wee trial version. I'm sure it'll be edited when we put it on the website, which hopefully will be up by maybe next month. That'll have all the events up. We'll have the kind of workshops that we're planning to organise, plus potential meetups that we're going to be doing in different cities. All that information will be up on the website. It's already built, but it's just behind. Just not released it to the public yet. We're just trying to get a wee bit of content. So we will be scouting about for people that are willing to do content, give us some blog posts. We're hoping it will be a kind of a main hub for just people within the digital sector in Glasgow, then eventually Scotland and beyond. So today we're going to be discussing ad blocking. I think that's kind of it's a relevant topic because our next meetup will basically be on new media in Scotland, and it'll be looking at some of the more innovative versions of media. So we've got people like Kilter. We have The Ferret, which is a kind of an investigative journalism website that uses crowdsourcing to fund itself. But essentially, ad blocking affects all of that because ads might be a kind of revenue stream for some of these publishers. So with ad blockers, is that endangering the potential for journalism and beyond? So today we have Dean Murphy. If you want to say hello, Dean.
Hello.
And we have Catherine Watson from 999 Design.
Hello.
And well, first of all, I was going to ask Dean, you've got an interesting story. I thought maybe you'd want to discuss the creation of Crystal. Tell us a little bit about it and basically why you set it up, how it came about, and how successful it's been.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I started making an ad blocker last year at around about June after Apple announced iOS 9 and the content blocking facilities that will be in the new iOS for iPhones and iPads. So I spent 3.5 months just building an ad blocker, and much to my surprise, it got very popular very quickly. Ended up to be the #1 downloaded app in 32 countries, top of the charts worldwide, pretty much. Which is very unexpected. So I managed to quit my day job, and now I work in ad blocking, just running the ad blocker and keeping up and maintaining it, and a few other things that I can't talk about at the moment.
Yeah. Catherine, could you tell me a little bit about 999 Design and what do you guys do in terms of marketing and things?
Yeah, well, I suppose we're primarily a branding communications company. We design websites and build them, and so we are all about user experience and engaging content. So from our point of view, ad blockers are, I think, they've been a long time coming because they're incredibly intrusive adverts, and so we have a lot of sympathy with why people would want to switch them off. Yeah, so.
And Dean, I know there's, within the kind of publishing industry, ad blockers maybe don't have the the best reputation? How's your kind of relationship with, say, for example, media companies? Have they spoke to you at all?
Not really. I mean, initially when I first announced what I was working on, there was a lot of press, and I did like a lot of interviews regarding the ad blocker I was creating. That was mainly because I wanted the story of what's happening with Apple and allowing ad blockers onto their platform more than anything. So apart from that, I haven't really spoken much to the media about it or built up like, proper relationships with the media about it.
Do you think that's a wee bit interesting they've not bothered to speak to you? Because, if you are potentially damaging their revenue streams, surely they would maybe want to speak to you, to find a way that you both can work together to maximise both of your products.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot that can be. A lot of the reason why people block adverts is just how intrusive they are and the performance impact they have on phones. For example, when I was doing my initial testing last year, to load up a web page, let me start again. I tested 10 web pages off of random sites that are very popular, like news websites. If I remember correctly, they loaded 4 times faster with an ad blocker with an ad blocker turned on, and used 50% less data. Which, when you've got like low signal, that's a very big benefit. So there's definitely a lot that can be done on the publisher side to just improve their ad delivery and the presentation of their ads and all the other stuff as well that runs in the background, not just ads, like all the analytics and widgets and the stuff that just takes up so much performance.
When you are developing websites, do people actually bring in the idea of adverts into the site's design? Do some companies ask you, do we need to have adverts?
Yeah, if that's how they're making their money. Also, we create adverts for use by ad networks to promote brands that are clients of us. So, we do creative for advertising, and it's still it does work. There's still in terms of is it on our radar? We wouldn't recommend to clients to not advertise because it doesn't work, because it does. And if you do it well and it's relevant and not intrusive, and you adhere to acceptable standards, then it's a perfectly good way to get your name out there, and with a mix of other digital marketing solutions. So yeah, we can definitely see both sides of this. But in terms of brands worrying about it, or clients worrying about it, or us fretting about it at the moment, we're not really. It's not something we flag up, but that might change. So we'll have to see what happens.
What would you say is the main reason why ad blockers became so popular nowadays? Is it because people just prefer having no ads at all, or do you think maybe some websites have been, I would say, kind of abusing that privilege of having ads on their site? Do you think maybe they've just been far too many nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. I think ad blocking has just been growing year over year over year. It's been around for well over a decade. So every year, more people turn them on, and more people are getting to that breaking point where the web is just becoming frustrating, and they just want to get rid of all the stuff that keeps popping up or popping under or flashing and playing videos without them wanting to, stuff like that. So it's just the more intrusive and violating these adverts can get, the more people that will actually try and actually look how to block them. And if they're amazed, this advert's really annoying, and we say, why don't you install this ad blocker? It'll get rid of all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very punishing how there are some websites who do a great job at advertising and very lean and fast and responsive, but unfortunately they get held up in the cross line. When you install ad block, it pretty much just blocks everything.
And I noticed today Forbes, the website Forbes, they're now essentially not letting you on that site if you've got an ad blocker. Is there a way for ad blockers there to now, is there potential future technology that will get you around that as well, or is there an ongoing battle there?
Quite possibly. I've not actually looked at what Forbes is doing, what their implementation is, but The thing I thought that was funny was they advise users to turn off an ad blocker, and they will serve an ad light experience, like a lighter advertising experience for the next 30 days while their ad blocker is turned off. Some people, when they turn off their ad blocker and then load up the full page they're trying to load, were served basically adverts for malware, like fake versions of Java that were asking them to update. So I found that quite funny, because that's one of the things that ad blockers again protect against is fake ads which just are there to serve malware to people, and like spyware and viruses and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely for me personally, I think one of the reasons why I started using AdBlocker on the desktop was, to avoid, kind of basically getting viruses on my computer. Dean, do you think, I don't know if is that as prevalent in the mobile, perhaps maybe more on Android than iOS, but can you potentially still get sort of viruses through the internet through adverts on mobile devices?
Not really. Well, I target the iPhone with Crystal, so iPhone is naturally just locked down pretty much out the box, so you can't really do anything malicious to it via a web page, pretty much. So that's pretty much non-existent on the phone. On the phone, it's mainly performance, because phones, as great as they are, they're not as powerful as your desktop computer, and also the network's not as fast most of the time if you got if you're on 3G or 2G. So on iPhones, I'd say the benefit is performance, and on the desktops there is a lot of security. It's probably one of the main benefits.
Catherine, when you're talking about kind of in terms of design and marketing, what are the sort of core elements that you think you'd want to put on a website that makes that kind of user experience, perfect, the desirable? Because obviously, what Dean's doing is he's trying to make that user experience absolutely as good as possible by taking away those ads. But when you're actually creating websites, what do you think about when you're creating those websites?
Well, I think you have to think about why the user's using that site, and the fact that you've got your main. If it's a publishing site, you've got your main content area. That's what you're engaging with. So banners at the top, static images to the side, especially if they're relevant to the content that you're looking at or unobtrusive, that's completely acceptable, and that kind of works well for both publisher and advertiser, and the adverts will probably work better. And in fact, if you're being served an advert, maybe a programmatic advert that's relevant to the profile that's been built up via your browser, that could actually work really well for the user as well, because if it is in the right time, the right place, the right content, that's a really good deal, so everyone's happy, and I think that's really the goal. But so many people do it very badly and execute adverts without thinking about the user. They just don't care. It's just trying to make money. So, yeah.
So, Dean, what do you make? What do you suggest for companies who basically, on their website, ads are a revenue stream? So, what do you suggest for them to do? Do you think they can?
I wish I had that answer.
They go to a subscription model, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different models that people are trying, there's a lot of paid ad blockers on iPhone at the moment, so there are people willing to pay not to see ads. So I've seen a few websites offer the ability where you can pay a subscription to them and not get an ad-free experience directly for that website. Google's trialing something similar called Google Contributor, where you pay money to Google and you won't see Google ads on any websites, and that gets shared with the sites that you visit, basically. So there are a few different models like that. Ideally we don't want to lose the free internet, but then there is, for example, if there's a news story, there's 500, 1,000, maybe more websites reporting the exact same story. So there's a lot of what am I trying to say here? There's a lot of there's a lot of websites just printing the same things and just putting their ads on it, basically. So if you make standout content, there's going to be people willing to either pay a premium or to support that by other means. Just by asking nicely, we're good guys here. Please don't block our ads. Whitelist us.
It's Gary Black here has commented. I think one of his worries is that advertisements might pay for the staff who create the websites, who are maintaining the websites, so that there's a danger there if revenue goes down, they might lose their jobs, kind of thing. Do you think there is Dean? Do you think there's a potential there? I know that is it AdBlock Plus or AdBlock Pro? They talk to websites, and websites pay them money to get themselves kind of whitelisted. Is there a moral grey area about that?
Yeah, with what AdBlock Plus do, they've got the Acceptable Ads initiative, where if adverts meet a specific criteria of being acceptable, and they've got this criteria on their website, they can get whitelisted. The top 10% of websites pay for the privilege of being whitelisted, and that covers all the administration behind it. And they pay out of the revenue that's generated from the ad blocker, from the people who allow the acceptable ads to come through on the ad blocker. As for morally grey, it can get very twisted easily by the media, just how I've seen comparisons to the mafia and extortion and stuff like that. But to me, they got the largest. I think it's around 90 million or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. They've got one of the largest ad blocking communities who's installed their app, who's willing to see ads that meet the criteria. So really, these publishers are just paying a premium to access people who don't mind seeing good ads, but just want to block all the bad ones, all the intrusive ones that don't meet this particular criteria.
Catherine, do you think there might be a scope there for the design and creative sector, with the kind of publishing, content producing sector and the ad blockers to maybe come together to try and find some sort of common ground on what is a good advert and what's a bad advert, and how the user experience can be created in the best way possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if that's focusing more on sponsored content, native content that fits in seamlessly with the type of content that users wanting to consume anyway. Sponsor, even using social media in more creative ways. So maybe not necessarily going down the route of display advertising, because nowadays you can get better results sometimes for some types of brands. Running competitions on social media, incentivized, adverts, 2-for-1 type deals, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of ways you can use imagination and creativity to engage users in a way that pleases everybody. And I think display advertising is always, it's, for me, all these issues aside, I always think that the way that the metrics work on display ads aren't as convincing as some of the metrics that you get through social media, where you can see conversion rates more easily. A lot of things are measured, clicks are measured, which, as everyone knows in an advert, you quite often click ads and it doesn't mean anything. So, and I think there's many ways to get your product out there, basically on digital. So, and that's part of our role, is to help people figure out what's the best way.
Dean, I mean, going back to your experience as well, I mean, what is the main reason, do you think, behind the fact that Apple has allowed these ad blockers on basically on the mobile devices? Some have said that it might be a bit of a war between Google and Apple, and that's creating this idea that maybe they're trying to strangle that advertising market. Do you agree with that, or?
Not really. I don't think it really affects Google as much as what people say it is. I know a lot of people like to drum up there's kind of like a war between the two. The main reason why I think they've put content blocking on the device. It's just Apple's all about user experience, and that's one of their main goals. And ad blocking just improves user experience so much, and it's just crazy that it really shouldn't on a mobile device. That had a bit of a bad rap last year when particular website called Apple out for Safari not being as good because it takes so long to load up pages, and just websites take so long. And it turns out it's all the adverts and stuff in the background that makes them that takes up all that time, loading and rendering and etc. So I think that's the main reason why I've done it, is just to help improve user experience, and also just help the wider web look at maybe better ways of delivering their content. Maybe they believe it's through like native apps. Instead of people going to your website, come to our native app. They've made it a lot easier to transition. When you go to a website, it will just open up the app instead. So that's something that Apple's released with iOS 9. So I think that's what they're kind of trying to move to. Is like an app store. Well, obviously, the iPhone is the app store model for them. So that's maybe what they're trying to push people into.
I mean, because I suppose in some ways, though, it is maybe a little bit cheeky of Apple in a way. They've blocked adverts on Safari, yet the ads on apps are still kind of really running about, going amok. Sometimes I think like you download an app and you think, oh, that's free, and then you're just bombarded with ads on it, and it's a terrible experience itself. How have you? Can you tell me a little bit about Crystal? Just how you use it, download it, your kind of the whitelisting that you might have on there, and things like that.
Yeah, so it's very easy. Just go to the App Store, type in Crystal. Chances are it'll be at the top of the list. It will say Crystal Adblock or something similar. Just download it as you would a normal app. When you open it, it'll give you a little free instructions. You open up the settings, navigate to the correct part, and then just switch on Crystal. And then that turns it on whenever you're browsing Safari. As for the features of it, at the moment it blocks ads, and any websites you find that are still showing ads, you can report using the report site function. As for whitelisting, I'm working on a big update at the moment, which is due out very soon, which is going to have a few cool features. One of them is whitelisting, where you can nominate websites that you don't mind seeing adverts on, and it will stop blocking stuff on that website, essentially. And also include the Accept All Ads initiative from AdBlock Plus, where any websites, you can choose to not block the non-intrusive adverts that are part of the Accept All Ads criteria.
So, Ewan, do you have any questions that you're taking away furiously? Say hello to Ewan, everybody. That's another co-founder of the Digital Meetup.
One of the things this is a question for both of you, is are ad blockers forcing advertisers to find more innovative ways of getting their message through to people, possibly even within the design of the websites themselves, or something like that, that in a way they're actually a good thing for advertisers as well as for consumers?
Yeah, I think ad blockers could be the saviour of the internet. I do think that websites will have to adapt and evolve, and design will have to take that into consideration, the need for advertising, because it's not going to go away. And I think what Crystal's doing with the whitelist, I think it's a really good model going forward, because I think originally it was probably too blunt a tool, where it's you're just blocking everything out, and actually once people know the value exchange, they're quite happy to pay for ads, and they're quite happy to watch ads to pay for the content, if they value the content and the ads are not too intrusive. So yeah, no, I think ad blocking ultimately is a good thing for everybody, especially if it's going down the road that Dean's going down.
Dean?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, when advertisers, when they push, obviously, once disruption is made, change is going to happen from it, whether it's good or it's bad. I mean, like a lot of advertisers started putting banners on page and flashing banners on page, then a video on a page, and then auto playing videos on a page with sound and noise and stuff. So it could go either way. It could work out to the detriment of some websites or some advertisers, and some other advertisers could, you know, do a lot more better work and make a lot more better targeted or better looking kind of adverts and better performing. I would say to any advertiser, just work on the performance and of the delivery, and also to publishers, just the placement of the ads and where you're placing it, and not trying to place it for the greatest conversion, but for the, you know, just try not to be annoying with them. And because a lot of websites, especially on mobile, have maybe a bottom banner and a big box ad and then a auto playing video or something, and mobile screens are very tiny, so it's just optimized experience for the mobile device is a lot better than what's currently being done.
I think one of the things that annoys me the most right now is, especially on kind of, you know, basically because we're talking about journalism, a lot of kind of news sites right now, they almost kind of present adverts as if they're actual articles on their own website. So,
yeah.
But there's been some really bad examples of it. I won't name names, but for example, one, you'll see the same articles at the top, or articles, but they're actually ads, then the same ads down the side. So the actual content you're actually seeing, this original that they've actually created, is only like maybe 1/3 of the actual site, if not less. And I think
that's one of the points of the acceptable ads criteria, is every advert should be clearly labelled and distinguished as an advert. Like if you do a Google search result, you've got all your search results, and you've got like a yellow box which is your advert, which looks like a normal search result, but it is highlighted and says, you know, this is sponsored content or sponsored advert or something similar to that. So yeah, just clearly label what are ads that people know can easily distinguish just by looking what's an advert, what's the content.
Does the ad blockers affect, for example, you know, when I'm Google, you know, when I'm on Facebook and things like that, and it's collecting all my data? Do you think ad blocks have that? You know, do they block that at all, with websites being able to collect my data? And in some ways, there's a privacy issue with there, which ad blocks help. Actually, be a bit more private.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much tracking going on behind the scenes on websites. Adverts are something you can see and you can relate to most of the time when they're gone. But what's harder to promote is the privacy aspects of what goes on behind the scenes and what's being collected and where's it being passed to. It's being passed to so many different third parties that some you'll know, like Amazon or Google, and some that you just won't have a clue because you've never heard of them. So like all this data is just getting passed around, like what you're looking at, how long you're looking at for, and where did you click and how far did you scroll down. Just all this is being collected, and that's something I'd say. I wouldn't recommend collecting any data unless you know what you plan to use that data for. I find so many companies are just collecting data just to have it without knowing what they want to do with it.
Catherine, from a personal standpoint, is that something that worries you when you're on websites and you're looking about just that kind of data collection and how they're using your data that they're receiving?
It's actually something that doesn't worry me, because it's generally anonymous data, and I don't really mind that being collected because no one really knows it's me. So I suppose out of all the issues about why people are ad blocking, that's probably one thing that doesn't personally bother me because I know how it works. But I know a lot of people, they really, really hate targeted adverts. They really hate the fact that they've been shopping for a coffee table and then for the next 5 weeks they see a coffee table for sale on every site they go into, and I think that creeps people out. And you know, but that's a flaw of the programmatic model as well. You know, there should be frequency caps, and yeah, or you know, it's just, you know, if you've got to the end of that user journey where, you know, you've bought your shower unit or whatever, you don't want to see any more of them. So as much as it doesn't make me worry about, you know, that people know personally what I'm doing online, because I don't think that's really what it is. It's more that people find it irritating. But because I kind of know how it works at Perch, I just ignore it. I don't really pay much attention.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. It doesn't bother me really, what's being collected, because I know the kind of data that's collected, but I can understand how how some people just don't like anything being collected and want to be anonymous, and the whole internet's this little secret bubble that they're in. But I can respect that, but for me personally, I don't mind it, because at the end of the day, it does lead to some better advertising as well. Like Amazon as well. I mean, their home screen is pretty much tailored to what you've been looking at, pretty much with your history with them, what you've been buying with them. So that's quite cool. But it does get a bit creepy when you go onto Facebook and you see, something you've been looking at on another website. You think, how do they know? Does Facebook know that I know this? And that's one thing that creeped my mum out about the programmatic adverts.
I think it's if you've bought a present for your husband or wife and online, and then if you share a computer.
At the front page of Amazon's like diamond rings and.
Or if you're buying something for somebody you shouldn't be buying something for. So, there could be issues that way.
So where do you see the kind of industry going, Dean? Do you think it's just going to grow and grow, or do you think there's problems ahead? Do you think, is there potential, would there potentially be legislation out in the future restricting the use of ad blocks, or would you see any potential obstacles?
It's hard to tell, because I'm so new to this industry that's been around for like 10 years, and I've kind of just been shot into it, and it's been quite a wild ride. But all I can see is just the more popular websites just abuse the use of ads, the more people are going to convert into ad blocking, and then the more people use ad blocking, the more of a problem ad blocking is going to be for the industry. So I think one of the biggest things to do is, one, look at why people are starting to use ad blockers and try and prevent that, stop convincing them to use ad blockers in the first place, and then after that, think about what can we do to win the trust of people who's been blocking our ads back. Because I mean, once you've installed an ad blocker and you're used to the fast speeds on mobile, this is once you're used to the fast speeds and the clean pages. When you turn it off and start browsing pages, it just you just can't go back. It's like using a phone for like 3 years ago. You just can't go back to using like the old model again. So once you've lost on to ad blocking, it's going to be very difficult to bring them back.
As somebody there, we got a wee quote there just saying the worst aspect of tracking is when they're looking at something at work and then they begin to see those personal ads even on their laptops and things like that. They kind of get freaked out a wee bit about it. I suppose that kind of comes back to user experience as well. If you're actually creeping the user out through your own advert, you're kind of breaking down that relationship. You actually want people to trust you as a brand, and I think it's amazing just how you get some really reputable brands, yet the adverts that they have on their site just don't reflect, the quality of product that they would probably put out or sell. Ewan, do you have anything else to add?
I mean, it's. I think that in terms of just revenue streams, I'm thinking like you've got. I mean, the great success I think of recent times is Spotify, which was an ad service, and then they brought out a very reasonable rate premium service, so you pay $9.99 a month and you get an ad-free service. I mean, do you think that, I know we've talked a little bit about that previously, but I mean, what other kind of, how do you feel that could work with other industries and that aren't music streaming websites? Say, for example, just other types of websites that are providing other services. Do you see that is a viable way forward, or do you think it is only advertising the way that these companies can make money from their sites? Can I ask that to Catherine first, or either of you?
I really don't think people generally want to go down a kind of pay-per-view or subscription model. If you have to subscribe to every single website that you consume content on, or pay every time you want to watch a video, or I think once people understand the relationship between the content and the advertising, and the fact that the experience they have now and the content they get now is due to the advertising, I think So I think it's down to the publishers or the websites to make it really explicit and say, you know, this is how it works, this is the value exchange, and then people will be willing, they'll be like, actually, I don't mind a 30-second advert in return for free content. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, look at the models of, for example, YouTube, where you know, you're watching videos and every now and then you got like a little advert beforehand. If it's a long video, you got the advert beforehand, and you can choose to skip it. There's a clear value exchange there, and now they've announced YouTube Red, where you can pay, I think it's like $10 a month in America, and you get a few extra perks, like you can download videos for offline viewing, which is great. Which, if it was out here in the UK, I'd buy that because I'm a big YouTube fan, a big YouTube user, and that wouldn't be possible without adverts. But yeah, with YouTube, for example, they have ads within their apps. They're on like a lot of different platforms, so they control the experience. Same with Spotify, where they control the experience within their app, so it's harder to block ads. So I think what I'm getting at is a lot of the future seems to be in apps, which are harder to block content in, especially native content, like in Twitter, where you get sponsored tweets inserted into your timeline, which are clearly labelled as sponsored and promotes whatever it is. And same with Facebook, where it's just stuff inserted into your timeline. There's a clear value exchange where you're looking at your stuff, and then you've got the sponsored thing, and then you look at the other stuff. So that's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think as users, we're happy to pay just that wee bit extra to not have ads. I mean, you look back at kind of Netflix, and the experience that you get in Netflix is just, it's almost so much better than you get in normal television because you don't have ads. You're happy to pay, you know, that £5 a month to not get ads. And I think in some ways it's now it's enabling people now to see a life without ads. In a way, maybe like things like Netflix might kill the kind of advertising online because people now just expect, you know, not to be bombarded with it anymore. It's so simple just to add an ad blocker, and you can almost have a life without it. So in some ways, when I do hear people complain about the amount of ads, I do think myself, why haven't you got that ad blocker on there? You can actually experience the internet normally. Dean, if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is great. I'm a subscriber of Netflix, and whenever I have to use like another service like ITV Player or 4 on Demand, where they just got ads inserted at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, it just feels just so archaic compared to like the future, which is Netflix and iPlayer as well. Obviously, iPlayer is subsidised by the license fee. So I'm pretty sure ITV have like an ad-free subscription you can do. I'm not sure, but yeah, if it's good quality content such as Netflix, it provides a good service. You don't mind paying for that. People don't mind paying for that. But you know, if Netflix was free, had like a free tier with advertising, you know, how popular would that be? Because you know, Spotify has obviously a lot more free members than what they do paid members, and they make a lot more money off the paid members. So is it worth having the free people? And it's a load of different questions. Just opened up a whole triage of questions.
Got a question here for Catherine. It's just saying, obviously, you guys use Twitter a lot, even for your own company when you're kind of branding your company. It was just having used social media advertising. My experience is users find Twitter ads far more intrusive than Facebook ads. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Instagram ads are, probably even more intrusive than Twitter. I think Twitter's still kind of, you know, because it's such a fast medium, you're generally scrolling. You can flick past ads, sponsored posts really quickly. But I've had much worse feedback about Instagram ads, that people they're just like, this is where we used to, you know, we used to be completely safe from marketing and advertising. And I think that's the thing. I think people generally just feel this is a social network. I'm here to interact with my friends and have a bit of fun. I can't be, you know, I don't want a bank to advertise at me, or like, or washing powder or something. It's. I think you have to be really careful how you use social networks sometimes to advertise, depending on the type of brand you are. Yeah. So
I think as well, creating good creatives for the adverts for the medium that you're being advertising in. For example, Instagram. I've seen a lot of adverts on Instagram where it's just the same advert that you'd see on telly, just like stripped down to like a 10-second video or whatever.
yeah.
There's a chance to be creative and make like a really good picture, really good photo that represents your product or brand or something like that. And same with YouTube, where you've got that 5-second skip button. I always make a note of and just see if I can work out what's been advertised within the first 5 seconds before I skip it. And so many brands just don't say their name or what's been what they're trying to sell within the first 5 seconds. And
crazy thing. I mean, I think advertisers should be thinking about that really short attention span and the medium. The fact that if it's 5 seconds, create something that gives the message in 5 seconds.
With YouTube, I think it's a 30-second ad, and then you can skip after 5 seconds. So the majority of people skip. So if you don't get your message across within the first 5 seconds, you failed your ad.
Going back to kind of journalism and publishing, one of my biggest pet peeves right now is, you see that with quite a lot of websites, is you might load up for a 20-second video, but the ad might be a minute, and you actually physically have to watch that ad for 20 seconds, and it's just a lack of attention. I think a lack of kind of thought of the user experience. And I think to me, like that, for example, newspapers are particularly bad at it because they're just not. I don't think they think about the website. It's still some ways it's about the newspaper first. So a lot of the time it's just kind of copy and paste stuff up in onto their website, and a lot of the time it's just their video. Let's just have a video, but they don't think about how can we integrate that into the story. If people are coming and they're seeing the video and they're getting a good experience, to come back to their story. But if they're getting a bad experience, they're going to avoid that website, and they're still not kind of thinking about that so far.
And obviously, the better the experience, the more likely you are to share that within your social circles, and so sharing is a big factor of it as well.
For you, Dean, how do ad blockers advertise?
I tried Twitter ads, and a lot of people point out the irony of an ad blocker advertising. So I don't really. The best advertising I found is just word of mouth. When I first released it, I released it for free to the first 100,000 people, first 100,000 downloads. That was my kind of goal. I downloaded within 12 hours up to 100,000 people, and I had an email list of about 10,000 people who I emailed it out to. So within 12 hours, it gained a lot of traction, and I made it paid, and then it hit the charts. So just word of mouth more than anything. Once people try it, see the performance benefits, they just want to tell their friends and say, why haven't you got this, or why don't you install this? And so just word of mouth, I'd say.
Did you feel a wee bit kind of upset that 100,000 people got it for free, or do you wish that you'd got them paying for it, or? Not
really, no. I mean, they were like the first early adopters who kick-started it. Like when Spotify released their stuff for free, you're a free member of Spotify, you tell your friends to sign up, and then that friend might pay the £10 a month or whatever to Spotify, which is their main goal, to spread for free and then convert them to paid. So the initial downloads I had pretty much done a lot of word of mouth and a lot of advertising for me, which was I wouldn't be able to buy that kind of publicity, especially not with the budget I didn't have at the time. Just working on my business in my spare time in my bedroom. So
Catherine, has 999 done any kind of advertising or marketing for kind of Apple for apps or anything like that? You've had any experience in that?
No, that's for new starts. You mean for kind of? No, our head of digital has started his own company, so we could be about to do that for him. But no, I think it's a difficult. I'm just so impressed, Dean, that you, that you did this with what sounds like very little money.
The only budget I had was time.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
incredible.
much.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things with the Dean's example is I remember reading an article and it was in Time magazine, and I'd read his app, so I sent him it, and you didn't even know that you'd been, that you'd been quoted in it. And I was like, it's one of the most read publications in the entire world, and you've named and quoted in that article.
I only really knew about the ones where the journalists have spoken to me directly, so it would have been like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, where I've spoken to journalists, and the BBC. And when I search my name and Crystal, I just find loads of different links to loads of different places that I didn't even know about. It's crazy.
How are you kind of after kind of you were the first out there in the App Store? How you kind of now trying to keep ahead of the curve? Obviously now there's kind of more and more apps getting on there, potentially doing ad blocking as well. How do you kind of make sure that you are staying at the top of the charts?
Yeah, it's very tricky now. As I say, like the initial gold rush is over, and there's like hundreds of different ad blockers out there, ranging from a lot of them are free, a lot of them have in-app purchases, a lot of them are paid. It's just so much competition out there. So it's mainly just going on the brand awareness that I've built up originally. Good reviews, just loyal users, and word of mouth, and just keeping them supported with regular updates, making sure it performs well, it's regularly updated. So that's mainly it, and I'm looking to move to other platforms, possibly in the future.
Would that be kind of Android first?
Yeah, I'm looking at the what's feasible on Android at the moment, because it's something that's a little bit alien to me coming from iOS. So watch this space.
Well, I'd like to thank both Catherine and Dean for joining us today. Like I said, in the future, our next meetup after this will be on fashion. That's the one after this coming one, which is next week. That'll be in Blackfriars, as always. We already have about 80 people already signed up, so we might have to kind of put in a wee bit of a block on that, a wee cap. So if you want to come along to our next meetup, which is next Thursday, starting from 6:30, sign up onto our meetup page just now. If you just go into meetup, if you're in the Glasgow area, it'll be probably one of the first or second that you'll appear up. Come along to that. I think Catherine's coming along.
Yeah.
In April, we're hoping to have a meetup basically focusing on app development, which potentially Dean might be involved in, hopefully. I think that would be really exciting. I'm going to try to use Dean as an example of a startup company and how to market yourself, get your name out there, again with no budget. I think that would be really interesting, especially for a lot of kind of app companies in Glasgow. They have that, they have the expertise, but they might not know how to market themselves. So our next one is on New Media in Scotland. We have we have Kilter, The Ferret, we have Illicit, which is a new kind of startup online magazine, and Kat Cochran of Dearest Scotland, which should be really interesting. And also we have a product launch, an analytics company who basically they can predict the next big news story by trawling social media, so it should be really interesting. So it's going to be a really bumper night. February it'll be on fashion, and then in March we're going to be having an event called Women in Digital. So we'll be talking about kind of it'll be a panel discussion. We're hoping that's going to be a really big event. A lot planned. Hopefully you can all make it. Sign into our Facebook group all the time. We'll keep you regular updates. Hopefully we'll see you again. We'll do another one next month. It'll be based on fashion. I'm not quite sure what the subject will be in relation to that. Maybe kind of e-commerce or something like that. So keep tuned. Thanks for tuning in. This will be up on our YouTube page, and we'll have it on our new website, which will be up there soon. And thanks again. Thanks again, guys, for coming along.
No problem.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.